Oh God, look at that. Look at those people running. Where are they even going? Every day since February 28, 2026 U.S. Looks like Central Command has released footage. Precision strikes, plane explosions, buildings collapsing in silence from 40. The videos are technically impressive. The targeting appears surgical. The language in the press releases is careful. Military installations, missile facilities, command infrastructure. What the footage does not show is what happens on the ground after the smoke clears. It does not show the hospital 2 blocks away that lost power when the substation next to the military compound was destroyed. It does not show the water pumping station that stopped working when the fuel supply was cut. It does not show the 3.2 million people who, according to the UN refugee agency UNHCR, are currently displaced inside Iran. Families who left their homes with whatever they could carry and started walking, because staying felt more dangerous than moving. The CNTCOM footage shows what was targeted. This video is about everything else. The Iran that nobody bombed in is suffering anyway. By day 15 of Operation Epic Fury, the official military scorecard looked like this, according to public statements from U.S. Central Command in the White House. Over 5,500 targets struck across 30 of Iran's 31 provinces. Iran's ballistic missile launch rate reduced by more than 86%. Iran's navy largely destroyed. Nuclear enrichment facilities at Fordow and Natanz struck and Sesta severely damaged. From a purely military standpoint, these are significant results achieved in a remarkably short time frame. There is a parallel scorecard that does not appear in Pentagon briefings. According to Iran's UN envoy, at least 1348 civilians have been killed and over 17. Looks like 0 injured as of March 12th. The Iranian Red Crescent Society reports that nearly 20,000 civilian buildings have been affected by the strikes, along with 77 healthcare facilities. A water desalination plant on Qisham Island was reportedly struck, with oil spilling into the streets and fires burning along the coastline. According to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, UNHCR estimates that between 600 0 and 1 million Iranian households, potentially as many as 3.2 million people, are now temporarily displaced inside the country, with that number expected to rise as strikes continue. The New York Times reported that food shortages are emerging across multiple Iranian cities, with residents stockpiling whatever they can find. Hospitals across urban centers are described as operating without reliable electricity, with pumping systems failing and water supply becoming uncertain. These are not fabricated numbers from Iranian state media alone. They come from the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the UNHCR, and independent journalists operating inside Iran. They describe a humanitarian situation that is deteriorating rapidly and that exists entirely separately from the military campaign that is, by conventional metrics, succeeding. On February 28, 2026, the first day of Operation Epic Fury, a missile struck the Shajareh Tayyebeh Elementary School in Minab, a city in southern Iran. Classes were in session. The school was attended primarily by girls aged 7 to 12. According to reporting from CNN, BBS, The Guardian, AP, and The New York Times, all citing U.S. officials or preliminary investigation findings, the strike is believed to have been the result of outdated targeting intelligence. The school sat within 100 yards of an Iranian naval facility. At some point before the strikes began, that naval facility had reportedly been vacated or repurposed. The intelligence used to plan the strike had not been updated to reflect that change. Looks like the school, however, was still full of children. Death toll estimates vary by source. Iranian officials stated at least 175 killed, the majority children. PBS News, citing a U.S. official briefed on preliminary findings, confirmed the figure was over 165, most of them children. Looks like satellite imagery analyzed by NPR showed the strike had damaged more buildings than initially reported. UN experts issued a formal condemnation, calling it a deadly missile strike on a girls' school and demanding accountability. U.S. senators from both parties demanded a full independent investigation, describing the attack as appalling. Trump disputed U.S. responsibility publicly, while a preliminary internal inquiry reportedly reached the opposite conclusion. There is no military framing that makes this story easier to tell. A precision weapon, guided by outdated intelligence, killed over 165 children during school hours. It was not deliberate. That is not in dispute. But the question raised by this single event, the question that no press release can answer, is whether the intelligence architecture supporting a campaign of 5,500 strikes across 30 provinces can ever be accurate enough, updated enough, reliable enough to prevent this from happening again and again. Because Minab was not the only school struck. According to Refugees International U.S., and Israeli attacks have struck other schools, multiple medical facilities, and numerous residential areas across the country throughout the campaign. Imagine living in a city of 2 million people where the power goes out without warning and nobody knows when it will return. Where the hospital on your street is operating on a backup generator that has enough fuel for perhaps another 48 hours. Where the water from the tap has become unreliable because the pumping systems depend on electricity that is no longer guaranteed. Where you go to the market and certain items are simply gone and certain items are simply gone-ons are simply gone-ins. Not expensive, just gone because the supply chain that delivered them ran through a road that is no longer safe to use. This is what is being reported from multiple Iranian cities as of mid-March 2026. The New Arab described Iranian urban life as a country coming apart, with the conflict spreading city by city into a sustained assault that touches civilian infrastructure, even when it is not the intended target. Dispatch Fair and Ongoing Wire both reported that Iranian cities are enduring relentless strikes, with residents struggling with exhaustion and fear, hospitals facing difficulties without dependable power. Residents confronting potential water shortages as pumping systems fail. The Iranian government has publicly stated that societal needs have been arranged and there is no cause for concern. But Iranians themselves, according to multiple independent reports, have begun stockpiling food, water, and daily necessities, a behavior that reflects not government assurances, but personal assessment of risk. When a population begins stockpiling, it is not because they believe official statements. It is because they are preparing for a scenario in which those statements turn out to be wrong. The psychological dimension of this is significant and largely unreported. Over 92 million people are living inside a country that is being struck by the world's most powerful military and sustained daily operations with no announced end date. The vast majority of those 92 million people had no role in Iran's nuclear program, its missile development, or its military decisions. They are teachers, engineers, farmers, students, parents. They wake up every morning not knowing whether today will be like yesterday, whether yesterday was the last quiet day for a long time. That is not a military metric. It does not appear in NEC, NTCOM briefing. But it is real, and it is happening to millions of people simultaneously. The United States military is, by any objective measure, the most technologically advanced fighting force in human history. Its precision-minus guided munitions are genuinely precise by the standards of any previous war. A JDAM- guided bomb lands within meters of its intended coordinates. A Tomahawk cruise missile can navigate through city streets to hit a specific building. The A-18G Growler can blind an entire air defense network without firing a single bullet. These are real capabilities. And they represent genuine advances over the carpet bombing of the Second World War or the indiscriminate artillery of earlier conflicts. On March 11, Trump said there was practically nothing left to bomb in Iran. His advisor David Sachs said it was time to declare victory and get out. Iran's president set 3 conditions for peace. The war, it seemed, might be approaching something resembling an end. But here is what does not end when the strikes stop. The 3.2 million displaced people do not immediately return home. The 77 damaged healthcare facilities do not reopen overnight. The children who survived the school in Minab go back to class if there is a school left, if there is a teacher left, if there is a teacher left, if the roads are passable. The families of the 1348 civilians killed do not receive a press release explaining that the military objectives have been met. It looks like history has repeatedly shown that the hardest accounting of any war comes not during the fighting but after it. The bombing of Dresden, the invasion of Iraq, the occupation of Afghanistan. In each case, the military phase ended with statements of achievement that were technically accurate and humanistic, ally and complete. What was destroyed was measurable.